everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. I'm Brian Doyle.
I'm Tim McNeil.
And once again, Tim, we are without the third man, which is fine for today because we've got plenty of smiling faces on this screen. We don't need Rob.
Yeah, he's a little down and out today, but he'll be at the next one. So.
But, Rob, we wish you the best. We know we'll see you again, probably too soon. And, for those of you that listened, now you also know why Rob has two B's. So if you didn't hear that story, come back to last week's episode. But anyway, nobody's here to talk about us, as I always like to say. They're here for our guests. And I want to welcome our guests, three folks that I've gotten to know in the industry over the years quite well. And I'm excited to see some of the changes that are going on in their world. So with us today, we've got Don Sauer, Gar Whaley, and Reid Johnston of Teal. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Good to have you on.
So you guys are here because of a recent coming together event that you had. And I think that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today is, kind of how a couple companies can come together and become stronger. Gar, maybe you'd like to kick off a little bit with some of the backstory that led to this.
Yeah, real short, Brian, we are part of a peer group community called IT Nation Evolve. And Don and I started a company called Aligned Technology Solutions in 2010, and Reid started TechGen back in 2000. And we worked together in the Evolve peer group for 3 to 4 years, and we started to see some alignment and some similarities. And we thought we could be, as you like to say, and you've said to me in the past, 1 + 1 = 3. We saw that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about it over time at many meetings, and we decided to make it happen. We actually made it happen in March of 2023. And then from a marketing perspective, we released it publicly last week, the end of the quarter, but our clients knew much earlier. So we've worked through a lot of the difficult stuff, and the last thing to do was sort of the marketing and releasing to the public. So that's where we are today. So thanks for having us on to talk about it.
No, we're excited to learn a little bit more. And there's a lot that goes with that. I think one thing that you touched upon was coming from the same peer group. It really gave you guys an opportunity to get to know one another. And, maybe you want to jump in and kind of tell us a little bit about what were some of your drivers personally that led you to potentially looking at a merger as opposed to staying independent.
For sure. Yeah. For me, I started my company when I was in high school. That's my claim. So I had been everything from driving around installing equipment to meeting with clients to doing finance to doing all those pieces. And as we continued to grow over time, I felt like I was kind of on an island. We were talking a little bit about this earlier. And I wanted partners. I wanted to see my business continue to grow, but I also didn't want to be on that island. And that's partly why I had joined Evolve, because I wanted to be around a group of people, learning about how they're doing things, sharing my experiences, but really getting to know the people behind the business, because I'm in this for the personal relationships. I'm in this for helping people. And being part of that group really allowed me to get to know Don and Gar and the other members in our group really, really well over time. And that helped as we went through the merger process, because we uncovered, discussions that knowing who we were as people really helped throughout that process.
It's funny you say that. So Rob and I, we've got a partnership, right? We started OSR coming up on 10 years ago. And Don and Gar are former clients of ours way back in
the cold call days.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think we may have still been guaranteed appointments, maybe. We're talking a while ago. Yeah. So it's funny. I often think about how it's not that I couldn't start a company on my own, but I can't imagine not doing it with somebody else. And joining a peer, and to take that one step further, another reason why Rob and I joined a peer group, which is more independent and just all different industries, is to get that different perspective. So that's cool. I can identify with that.
Tim, it's interesting you say that, because that's exactly what I was going to say about Reid. Sometimes in our peer group, Don and I would notice we had things a little bit easier than people
Yeah.
that don't have a partner, because we live in the same world and we can talk to each other very openly and directly about some of the higher things. So
yeah, if you've got that right partnership, I mean, look, it's kind of like a marriage in a way, right? It's not perfect every single day, but you've got the greater good that you're going after. And if you're both thrown in the same direction, or all three of you in the same direction, get there a hell of a lot faster.
well, we have a saying in our company that Don is my work wife, and he often says that he's traded down for younger with Reid.
Now that's good stuff. 'Cause
Younger and better looking. I don't know. He
Yeah.
used to have more hair than me, but
Wait a
he's
minute,
catching up since he partnered with us.
does that make us polygamists now?
Yeah.
Brian,
Hey,
get
you know,
control quick.
That is too
you just
funny.
need to now go find a fourth partner that comes out of that region, right? And that kind of brings me to the next question. And maybe Don, you want to jump in here a little bit, because one of the things that becomes pretty obvious in this marriage is it really widens geography for you guys as well. So is that, part of the bigger plan for Teal to represent that, or is this just an opportunity? And obviously with Evolve segmenting partners, regionally as well, it offered that opportunity.
Yeah, maybe not as much as you might think. The geography, it's really about, for us, it was really about Reid as a person and being a like-minded person, being somebody you could see yourself, the proverbial, I'd like to have a beer with that guy. And we've had some beers with Reid and some other drinks with Reid over time. It wasn't so much about a geographic expansion. I think we both organizations independently have been experiencing that organically as we start to take on clients outside of our home base, if you will. So yeah, for me, it wasn't geography. It was, we both have the same set of challenges and problems to solve, and we both had similar approaches, and we're aligned. And why not work on those together as opposed to apart? I've gotten a number of questions post merger from people asking, like, what's your advice? What's the one thing that is the most important thing? And to me, it's know who your new partner is going to be. It's all about that. It's, quite frankly, I think it's all that matters, because if you have the same goals and you're aligned on how to get there and what you want, all the other problems just get solved. We're March, we're 8 months, 9 months into this. We live in a world where you hear horror stories about partnerships. I've been in a long partnership with Gar. Wouldn't trade it for the world. And the first 9 months of partnering with Reid, only better. So whether we're fortunate or we did some good thinking on the subject, we're in a good place, and it works. We're better off for it. All three of us are better off for it.
I think we are fortunate, because I've heard horror stories where partnerships don't work. And Don and I have been working together since '96 at different companies in enterprise IT. And then we started this company, and there's never been a knockdown. We always seem to end up in the same place, although there's some heated debate that goes into getting the same place. And Reid is the same way. That's what we found with Reid. So it's exactly what Don said. It's really about the way I would say it is about the relationship, knowing who you're partnering with.
I think you'd look at it too. You guys had the privilege of really getting to know each other for a number of years before jumping into this decision as well. At least, with Reid, you coming over and taking on Don and Gar, and vice versa. That plays a big part into it, because you guys have hit on all the big things that make a tough partnership. You are like married to your partner, at least from a work perspective. You spend a lot of time with them, probably sometimes more than you spend with your spouse. And, and there are tough conversations that need to be had. And if there isn't an overarching goal, you're never, that's where the bad problems come into play. I've seen most of the time, if you've got 2 partners or 3 partners or 5 partners that aren't traveling on the same mission, that's where challenges come into. So, kudos to you guys to, kind of building that that plan, that mission, and hopefully the time that you got to know each other really helped.
Yeah, you asked the questions kind of in the context of the three of us, and Reid talked about being on that island, but for us, the other thing was the realization that by coming together, we can offer more opportunities to our team, and we can offer better service levels to our clients. And I know that sounds like the right thing to say, like you're the business, you say, well, it's for the people and it's for the client. I mean, we are servant type people. We all come from that kind of background, and we care a lot about how one of our shared and now ingrained in our company values is we call it enjoy the ride. And it's imperative that we do all of this, that we run a business, that we take care of employees, we take care of clients, and we enjoy doing it, and so do they. Otherwise, we're not interested. That doesn't mean we don't have roadblocks and stumbles. We do, but by and large, I saw this, and I think we all saw this as an opportunity to do more for everybody, not for ourselves.
Well, certainly making it a larger organization also solves one of the problems a lot of MSPs fall into, which is, how do I show a career path for some of my top performers, right? So just by the nature of becoming a larger group, it opens up at least supervisory positions or lead positions, if not full management positions. So, recognizing that, hey, we got to give our best a career path, and this is certainly an option to help do that. Good stuff.
So I've got a question, and it could be for any of you, or maybe all three of you. Look, this obviously went very smoothly, right? You can tell, like, you all knew each other before. You all had a common interest moving forward. It's definitely not a takeover, or sometimes you hear of more of a hostile takeover. That's clearly not the situation here. But if there was one thing, people always want to know, when situations like this happen, what's the one thing that happened that you didn't expect? And it could be good or bad. Doesn't really matter what side of the aisle it is. But what was one thing that happened just going through this process that you didn't expect would happen?
Well, I'm not sure this is really what you're getting at, but I'll tell you a quick story. It was one thing that none of us were expecting, and it was pretty damn big. And it just goes to the point that I made earlier about why you need to give so much energy and thought to who your partner is going to be and what that relationship is going to be like. We had put together this merger deal, and we've been marching down the timeline, and we had a settlement date. And 4 days before the settlement, guys, I think it was 4 days before the settlement, ATS's single largest client, representing a concentration problem. For those of you who know what that is, right?
That's a good way to put it, Don.
They were too big and a big part, and they canceled service with us 4 days before that. And when you merge together, or when you do acquisitions, there's a valuation of the company, and it was material. It changed the valuation of the company.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been a death blow for any other deal. But because of who we are and how much we knew about each other, it was a road bump. Quite frankly, looking back, it wasn't as painful as you might otherwise think, including the fact that by bringing the companies together, we didn't have to lay anyone off.
Yeah.
Some people went on with the new provider and all that, but we didn't have to cut staff. So, it goes back to that. All these problems can get solved. I think we do a little bit of an injustice to say that it was smooth, right? Because mergers and acquisitions are not smooth. Even the best of them is not smooth. I wouldn't call ours smooth. What was the reason it worked was because we were like-minded, and we were able to knock down the obstacles that you inevitably will experience. We worked with Reid Warren from IT Valuations, and one of the things that he told us early on in the process and throughout is, we're starting this journey, you're going down this path, but many people fall out before the end.
Most
And,
do. I think he
yeah.
said most of them do.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
question.
And the
we
funny thing
did-
is, as we got to those stages where the tough things happened, he would see this big smile on his face. He's like, this is where it typically happens. And we'd work through it. It was funny. Don said it was a road block, but I think it was a 12-hour death blow. Like, I think our immediate reaction was, okay, well, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And then as we slept on it and talked a few times in the weekend, it became very clear that this was just a road bump for the three of us. But we worked it out.
That's great.
Probably
That's
makes you stronger long term too, not just as partners, but even as the organization, since you don't have that concentration problem any longer.
Yeah.
Tim, what was the question again? Because I think I had a different answer. Don's was obviously the most significant.
Oh,
Was it
yeah.
surprise or?
No, just look, it's a big transition to go from one company to two, right? Or to merge two companies together. What was one thing that just caught you off guard? You know, one thing that you weren't expecting, whether it was good or bad, during the whole process.
I don't know, Reid. I don't have something other than that, because that one's sort of
That's
big. I
a
can't
big
think
one.
of anything.
That's a pretty good one.
I mean, one for me was not really bad, but just different is communication. You know, different organizations have different communication styles and practices internally, and it's bringing those two together and kind of getting everybody going the same direction. So that's something that we're continuing to work on, and we're getting better at it as time goes on. But communication style is definitely an important one.
I mean, oftentimes we've got the Abe Garbers of the world on here, and we get their perspective, but we don't. I think, Brian, this may be the first time that we actually have, the three of you on after the fact. So it's
I don't think we've ever had on
that
any MSPs
perspective.
that post merger to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Having gone through a number myself, it's actually a very interesting, scary, awesome, frightening time all at the same time, right? Because you really talk about and something I want to get into in a moment as well, merging, in your case, 3 different leaders into a management team and how you do that. But also you've got to get everybody on the bus on board too, right? And help them understand why this is better, how it's not threatening, how it's not going to lead to a consolidation event, which, obviously with what you went through, you showed already and demonstrated that we're not looking to move people out, we're looking to move people up. But maybe you can dive in a little bit into kind of your philosophy in building this new culture with different types of groups and, how you guys are divvying up responsibility.
Let me start by saying 2 of the I think easier parts of this for us, and it would be better for Reid to characterize this because he sort of led the path on it, was very similar tech stack, right? We didn't have to change much. Very similar product. The solution we're selling was very similar, and almost identical core values. So sort of to the opposite of Tim's question is, what made it maybe easier or we weren't surprised by. But the question was about how we chose our roles and help the company see the light. I'll just start by saying the 3 of us figuring out what our roles were going to be was not very painful and sort of easy for us to get through. Certainly easier than than bringing everybody on board. I'll let somebody else talk about how we chose the roles.
I think it started with the fact that Gar and I, being co-owners of Align Technology Solutions, had already had a kind of divide and conquer approach where Gar, we realized that if you don't focus on sales and marketing, if 2 owners focus on everything in the business, sales and marketing, especially for 2 people who come from a service environment, sales and marketing gets whatever's left over. And, I know a lot of MSPs that struggle with this. They get this, there's these fits and starts with sales and marketing, right? It's like, hey, we get some things going, but then I got to go focus on taking better care of our clients. So we decided a few years back to divide and conquer, and we put a bit of a firewall in between service and operations and sales and marketing. And we said, hey, Gar, you're going to focus on getting new logo clients and growing our portfolio. And I'm going to focus on taking care of the ones that we got. So that the logical extension of that was to kind of continue that, for Gar to continue to focus on sales and marketing, and he's now our chief revenue officer. Adding Reid to the mix. One of the, you talked about what strengths did we all bring to the table. One of Reid's strengths was really strategy and understanding how to connect and communicate with C-level execs and business owners on technical strategy and business strategy and guiding those. And then his own knowledge of, the tech stack and how to bring all that together. And Reid's now our chief information officer and the head of our, included in that is account management. So he does all the strategy with all of the clients. And, so as an EOS shop or entrepreneurial operating system, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with.
Yep.
We had already had that structure at ATS, and I think also a little bit at TechGen. And so
Absolutely.
I'm kind of handling everything else. We call the role, it's the integrator role in EOS speak. Externally facing to clients, it's the CEO, but it's pretty much everything else. The administrative and service stuff, kind of that division that Gar and I had already.
Yep.
So that just naturally worked out pretty well. And, I'll tell you that again, 9 months into it, the fact that Reid is our strategy guy with clients, good clients who already appreciated our service and had high marks for us are saying, hey, this is great. We got this guy Reid, and we got these account managers and all that. More good stuff comes from that. So it worked out. The harder part is, getting everybody else on board, because look, as much alignment as there was, no, the best plans for change are always difficult for people to take. Change is hard. There's just no two ways about it. If you do something one way today and you're asked to do it a different way tomorrow, it's tough. And if you're asked to do 15 things differently tomorrow, that's tough. So we've struggled off and on with that. It's about, communication, clearly articulating the vision. And if people are uncomfortable, if what we did before fit them well and what we do today or where we're going today doesn't fit well, we're trying to increase the operational maturity of our company as we go along. If that doesn't fit, no harm, no foul. I mean, there are other opportunities. We're not going to rush you out the door, and you don't need to rush out the door. But yeah, it's, again, enjoy the ride. If you're not enjoying the ride,
and innovation comes with change, right? And anything good comes with change.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're getting near the end of our time, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to share any final thoughts you had on the process or what the future might be bringing for you as well. So Reid, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I mean, for me, I think the big thing, I'll go back to trust, and entering into this process, having partners that I could trust was extremely helpful. And that's the advice that I would give for anybody looking at doing a merger or an acquisition. Make sure that you get past all the financials and all the paperwork and all the stuff, but you got to trust the people that you're working with. So that's my final thought.
And Gar?
Mergers are hard. This is a true merger of equals. So everything sort of had to be agreed on. I think the three of us plus our leadership team, maybe doing another merger in the very near future is probably not in our path, but we are psyched up about organic growth, which is what I'm responsible for. And I think in short order, we'll be looking maybe not for a merger of equals, but maybe an acquisition or a smaller merger. So one of the things that Don commented on earlier, which is a little slang that we used in our IT Nation Evolve group was, and Don, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong because you said it is combine or die.
Combine or die.
Yeah. So this was just sort of part of our strategy that Don was talking about earlier. When we put two companies together, we're able to get better employees because we have more to offer them. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's my final.
No, good. It's great. And Don, how about you? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just say one of the things you asked about was what's the future look like. I mean, I've never been more excited about our opportunities than I am today. It's truly limitless. You know, I don't see the ceiling.
I got a good one that's Don's hitting on to re-add to that. It's like a rebirth. Like we're entrepreneurs. We like actually change, or we dislike it a lot less than the normal human. And like we like to do different things. Like if Don and Reid and I all switch roles right now, we'd probably enjoy that too, because we're life learners. And so by putting the companies together, it's this whole nother set of challenges that we got to overcome. And for the three of us, those are the kinds of things we like to do. We're people that say, hey, give me that problem, give me that challenge, because I want to solve it, because that allows me to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So it's this rebirth, I guess I would say.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that entrepreneurial mindset of, we like to see that new thing that's going to take us to the next level. It's not necessarily leaving the thing we have, but how do you make change within what you're doing to take it to the next plateau, right? And then move from there. So
that's a key point. It's not necessarily leaving. We're not leaving.
Yeah.
We're just going on to the new thing.
How do you improve? How do you innovate? How do you move forward? Right. So good stuff, guys.
And I think sometimes we get focused too much on businesses get focused too much on the financial growth. And, we've been approached by PEs, we've been approached by investment banks and others, as many MSPs get inundated with that stuff. And that wasn't what we were shooting for at the time. And we're not shooting for that now either. But yeah, I mean, this was a way for us to grow and really feel good about how we grow and enjoy what we're doing every day in our lives. So
which is a big part of it. All right. So I think that brings us to time.
Yeah.
Tim, are you gonna be Rob for the close?
I'll try it. He's got his own little rhythm to it. But
by the way, I want to say I feel gypped. I came here for Rob.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm offended.
Well, look, Don, Reid, Gar, it was great having you on. It was really interesting for me to just sit back and hear it from the other side. Again, we've had the M&A from the other side, the people putting the deals together. So this was really kind of cool to get you all on the same podcast. But look, you can catch this podcast along with any other podcast from MSP Business School on anywhere where you can find your normal podcast, to include YouTube. So if you're on any of those platforms, make sure to like and share and all that fun stuff. And guys, again, it was really great having you on, and look forward to talking to you all soon.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And for your listeners, if you want to learn more about Teal, go to TealTech, TECH.com. And of course, as Tim mentioned, we'll have everybody's LinkedIn there. Connect with these guys, ask your questions. They are go-givers out in the marketplace. So, if you're thinking about doing the same move, these are the guys to talk to. They've been great sharing as long as I've gotten to know them. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks
for having us, and thanks for doing this podcast. It's really informative and helpful. I've listened to it for a long time now.
Gives us a fun outlet too, right? Perfect. Well, thank you guys.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.